Howdy, and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone. Thank you for joining us on our small but mighty little show we got here. You can follow me at Will Stone CFB on Twitter, at Ineligible Pod on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or X, if you will. The Ineligibles podcast is how you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. I think that's just about everything. I do some writing for goodbullhunting.com, uh, along with Robert Behrens and Jay Arnold. So obviously, check them out. You know, lots of good stuff going out right now. Sorry, I'm trying to get my stream shared. I always share it to my. Yeah, I don't really push Facebook, but I have a lot of my friends and family will watch, so I always make sure to share it on there as we're starting. So yeah, bad game. Let's before we dive too far into it, a couple of show notes. I've mentioned at some point or another, but it was later in shows. I'll mention this at the top to set the expectations. My wife is expecting our first child. She will be 37 weeks tomorrow. Inducement is the week of the A&M and Texas game. I had to sell my tickets, unfortunately. So yeah, that that could happen at any moment, and that will obviously change my availability for doing this show. So I'll certainly play that by ear as it comes along. But and also just I've I see every comment whether it's live or afterwards, and like every time I get a good comment, which most of them are pretty positive. It makes me keep wanting to do this, and I'm very grateful for y'all's support. So enough about that. Well, and just real quick, Aggie basketball dropped their opener 64-61 at UCF. Right before I jumped on here, I was kind of waiting for that to end before I sat down and got everything set up. Tough loss, but I mean, it's a Buzz Williams team. They will typically start slow, and they will they'll hit their stride later in the season at some point, as they usually do. But I really like the Minnesota transfer, Pharrell Payne, big athletic post player. I think he's going to be a good one. So, but this is a football primarily show. So let's talk about some football. And we had a game last week, and we were fired up, and we got our ass kicked. And I think there's only so much I can say. I'm still going to get my thoughts out there, and I did do the post game thoughts for Good Bull Hunting after the game. That usually goes out 15 minutes after the game ends. I've only done one other one. I think I'm doing New Mexico as well, but I did it this week, and was a tough one, but it made it pretty simple to write it because the problems were very obvious. It does not take a you know football genius to realize why we lost and what we were doing wrong. Now, I will say I've seen a couple, not many, but any is really too many to be making comments on the quarterback. And obviously Marcel was not perfect, but Marcel's about reason number 15 of why we lost on Saturday. It's there is no need to talk about benching Reed, putting in Connor. I think at this point in the season and in the program, and Elko kind of said as much after the game. I think someone asked him about if he thought about making a switch, and he said Marcel's the starter, and that's that. The guy said it. The broadcast team said it on ABC. They're like, yeah, Elko told us last night that this is Marcel's team going forward. So he made his first. He started at Florida, in the swamp, but that was an afternoon game. they had just gotten killed by Miami. It rained. There's a big lightning delay that probably took some of the edge off of that one. And Florida's it's a tough place to play, but it was nothing like the scene in Columbia on Saturday. So that was really his first true road game as a starter. And yeah, it was tough. I mean, he missed a couple throws down the field, made some really nice ones. Obviously, did some good things on the ground, and just his ability to make plays on the run. When he gets out of the pocket and escapes pressure, he keeps his eyes downfield. Made a couple nice throws that way, and then in the fourth quarter, the protection just completely collapsed. And I heard Elko say this in the game. Like he was getting pressured, pretty much the whole game. I think we allowed a 50% rate, which is absolutely god awful, unacceptable against anyone, even the freaking, an NFL team. You shouldn't give that up. So 50% was bad in terms of his dropbacks and pressures. And then so Elko said on the his press conference today that they didn't allow a sack all game until the last few drives in the fourth quarter, and they got three, and they were three big ones. And even you're like, what will frustrate me most about this game? Well, not most, because obviously the way we played was extremely frustrating, but similar to Notre Dame, it's the way we did it in front of that kind of audience. And with like coming off a big win, people are starting to buy in a little bit. People penciling in A&M into the playoff, and then you go out and lay an egg on the road. And if you look at the final score, you would think it was not even a competitive game. And as bad as it was, we had the ball down 10 on their side of the field with 7 minutes left. You get in the end zone there, and then pin them back on a kickoff at like the 20-25 and get the ball back. That's a very manageable and realistic situation. And we were driving down. We got into their end of the field on a great drive by Reed and the receivers, and I think that's when he threw the pick. But even after the pick, we still got the ball back after that. Still just down 10, and the protection just totally collapsed. 2 sacks in 3 plays. It's fourth and like 20 something, and I know fourth down is kind of a point of scrutiny, and fourth down decisions was a big part of that game, and maybe that it's tough to get 20, but with if you're going to go forward in some other situations, especially with given how your defense had played for a lot of that game, maybe like you just put the game on that play and say, hey, this is it. Like if we can't convert this, with 4th and 20 with 6 minutes left, then that's going to be the game anyway. So, but we didn't. We punted, and then Will Lee trying to go for a punch out and try to make a fumble, make a play, and just completely whiffs on their big tight end. He goes a long way for a touchdown, and then first play sack fumble touch on our own 25, and then they get the ball and score shortly after. So it's not all dissimilar to when LSU beat Arkansas 34-10. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, LSU just whipped their ass, and this, that, and the other. And that was a bigger like they beat them. They outplayed them more than South Carolina outplayed us. But people are going to look at 44-20 and say, oh, this was an ass whooping, which in some ways it was. But even given how bad everything was, in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left, I'm still like, hey, we still have a chance, to be right back in this thing and pull out a win. Obviously, that wasn't the case. The big story of this game was the defense. That was probably problem number 1, 2, and 3. And I said on here last Wednesday there was 3. Well, it's really just 2 things, but 3 things we could not have we could not lose the turnover battle, which we did. We had to wrap up because Sanders and Sellers are big physical dudes, and if you arm tackle them, they will run right through it, which they did. And don't allow explosive plays, which we did. So we went 0 for 3 and we lost. So go figure. Everyone is down in the dumps, and trust me, I get it. It's not fun to watch a game like that, especially given where our spirits were this time last week. But I do want to remind you that they really didn't have these problems most of the season, and it seemed like things were kind of rounding into form. Even against Mississippi State, allow some big plays, some busts in the first half, dominate the second half. LSU, you miss on a few things defensively in the first half and let them get some big plays. Offense obviously stalls out. Second half could not be more different. Complete 180. And now, you go out there and you miss a record high for tackles. PFF had it at 25. It's probably more than that. And you turn the ball over essentially 4 times. You missed 2 fourth downs on your own side of the field on your own 35-yard line to give them short fields. You threw a pick, and then you fumbled the ball on the 20. So yeah, that's. I know we also had a fumble recovery, which I think led to points, maybe to a touchdown, which was a big moment in that game. But you can't play like that in any facet that we did and expect to win. But I do think that this was an outlier. Luckily, we don't play a quarterback that's 240 pounds the rest of the season. And I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses like that. Like what they did was inexcusable. Missing that many tackles, not wrapping up, being out of position over and over and over. I can even understand some of the pressure breakdowns because that defensive line is that good. I was toying around with a mock draft today, and there's 4 defenders for South Carolina that are in the top 100 players. And that doesn't even count the freshman Dylan Stewart, who had an awesome game against us, who will be probably first rounder when he's eligible. So with a backup guard, 2 backup guards, switching in and out, for them to get beat, I understand that. I don't understand your all-world defense whiffing over and over and not being prepared for their offense in any way. And people go on about the broken tackles, which I get, and I want to make sure I get this tweet from Carter Carls out there. This was the numbers I was looking for the next day. He tweeted out Sunday morning. South Carolina quarterback Lenore Sellers tallied 12 forced missed tackles versus Texas A&M, which ranks second among FBS players behind Ashton Jeanty, likely Heisman finalist and total badass. In Week 10, SC saw 204 of its 286 rushing yards come after contact, and 195 of its 244 receiving yards come after the catch. So, that's all of their yards was after the catch and after contact. They had a couple here, there were some that there was no contact where they just we whiffed completely and had no one touch them, and that those plays worry me more than the missed tackles because and I mentioned this maybe a little bit last week. At least I hope I did. We've missed a couple of tackles here and there. In in Missouri, they were awesome. They didn't miss any really, but against Mississippi State, they missed some big ones in the first half. Against LSU, missed some big ones in the first half, and I'm like, okay, let's not make this a reoccurring thing. Let's clean that stuff up. Well, it went the opposite way, and they missed more than ever. But I've got to think that that comes back to earth a little bit, comes back to the average, and they don't miss 25 tackles every single game against 230 plus pound ball carriers. So, but what does worry me is I didn't think I thought the way to beat this defense was how it was a team like LSU, a team with a great offensive line who could keep the pressure off the quarterback, a team with a great passing quarterback and great receivers to make big plays down the field. And LSU did a lot of that, and we were able to make some adjustments and really kind of, obviously picked off 3 passes, got a couple sacks, put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and played them pretty well. I didn't think a team would beat us going east to west, and we would just be totally out of position. The safeties and linebackers played awful in this game. There's no other way to say it. We were misaligned and missed gaps on so many plays, and to where to where it didn't matter about wrapping up because like we were already beaten by our alignment and by just having 2 guys in the same gap and giving up a big play. So that concerns me about against a team like Texas. And people may say, "Oh, we still got to play Auburn," and like I'll get to Auburn in a minute. Trust me. But a team like Texas, who has struggles right now, I think Isaiah Bond's been banged up. Quinn Ewers, they think he's not fully healthy. Have struggled to really throw the ball down the field. Everything you watch against Vanderbilt, everything is dump offs. Quinn Ewers leads the country in a bad way in average depth of target. His average pass is like 5.5 yards downfield. It's dead last in FBS football. But they have really, really talented playmakers like Trey Wisner or Jaden Blue or the tight end Gunnar Helm or all those receivers. Like they got good guys and they scheme guys wide open. Even against Georgia, they had guys wide open. We can't do that. We can't allow that because Texas is actually probably better on defense than they are on offense. If you can get Basantes back, I feel pretty good about that matchup with our O line and their D line. There's certainly they have a good defensive line. It's not South Carolina by any stretch, but it is good. But we can't get into a shootout with that team because that's not going to go well. So those things for me, I'm more worried about. Like, can we get that fixed? I think we can fix tackling. I think that was so far outside of our norm that you got to give credit to the opponent here and how I talked a little bit at the end of last week about the quarterback sellers and people thought he got hurt against LSU and every game after that he never really looked healthy. Like he looked amazing the first half against LSU and then after that kind of was it looked like he was playing banged up. He was sliding a lot sooner than what you would expect. And I was like, will we see that, or will we see a guy that wants to put it all out, put it all on the line, and play his ass off, which he absolutely did, and was just running through Aggie defenders left and right, and so was Rocket Sanders. So you tip the cap to that coaching staff and those players for coming out and playing the way they did. But that's still a game that we could have won had we played our brand of football, which we didn't. And so you as much as it sucks, you would have liked to been 8-1, looking at 10-1 going into the Texas game, with obviously that kind of momentum, a chance to have your first one loss or less regular season since I think 92, maybe 94. I looked it up last week, but it's been a while since we've had a 0 or a 1 in the loss column in the regular season. A long, long time. So, but even with that, we still have everything left to play for. I feel like a lot of people are just conceding. well, some people are conceding Auburn, which is idiotic. Auburn, I don't. So I'm a big advanced stats power ratings guy. I like to use that as context for what I'm seeing on the field. Like I don't care about the AP poll. I don't care about the college football playoff rankings, which come out tomorrow. I don't care about how many ranked teams you played. That's all. It's a very dumb way to judge anything. I don't care what a bunch of journalists say are the best teams. That's stupid. What I do care about is actual data that's backed by numbers on a play-by-play basis, and those numbers still have Auburn as like a top 25-ish team, even though they're 3-6 or whatever they are. I think they're, I think they do some. They have some good play. Like obviously the running back Darquez Hunter, he's a guy that probably worries A&M right now because of his physicality. He's a bigger back, very strong runner. They have a couple of guys on defense, but yeah, I watched a lot of that Vanderbilt game this past Saturday, and they're just not good. Like Auburn is just flat out not a good football team. I know they hang around in games, and they've had a lot of turnovers, and people like it's a good team. They just turn the ball over a lot. Well, teams that turn the ball over a lot are bad football teams, and some of that's luck. Some of it is having Peyton Thorne as your quarterback. Auburn got hyped all offseason about, they got these stud 5-star freshman receivers. They're going to come in and, be this elite unit and dominate the West or the SEC. And I'm like, well, that's great, but they didn't get a quarterback in the portal. They didn't go get Cam Ward. They didn't go get anyone. They, they had the guy from Liberty, like who was coached by Hugh Freeze. Like, that guy's going to transfer. That's a good quarterback. He's way better than Peyton Thorne. Stayed at Liberty. Peyton Thorne's not a good football player, and against our defensive line, I don't care if it's in Auburn at night with the Auburn fans going wild or whatever. That is not a game that A&M should lose by any means. If you play like you did Saturday, you could lose it, but play like you did the first 8 games, and you should win that game handily. Maybe I'll look foolish in 2 weeks, but I'm telling you right now, that team is not good. Their culture is not good. They play like crap, and it wouldn't shock me if Hugh Freeze if his seat is getting a little bit warmer as the year goes on. So I digress, but so now you have a bye week, which is great. These coaches are going to be ripping in to these players, and the players get it. I mean, I thought Torian York and Marcel Reed showed some great maturity in their post game pressers after the game, and they know what they just did is not good enough. Like Elko said in his conference today, he's like, no one here is happy about what just happened. And you're like, that's why they shouldn't be. Well, they're not. So, they're going to be pushed hard these next few weeks. And, you get the week off, then you get New Mexico State, which, would be worrisome if it was last year, which it is not. That team is now, they all went to Vanderbilt. They're all gone. So the guys at New Mexico State now, they're not a good team. Even, they're not even a good G5 team. So that should be a win. Get back on track, wrap up ball carriers, play sound on defense. We'll see if Basantes is healthy. I don't think he would come back in that game. Just from a precautionary standpoint, maybe hold him for the Auburn game if you can get him back. I'm bearing the lead here. I'm sorry, Jeb. You've had all these comments in our live stream. Moss is out for the season, so obviously that sucks. That's a big reason he went down in the first quarter of this game. A big reason why we couldn't get 4th and inches 2 different times. So now I want to make sure I give credit to Le'Veon Moss for how he played for us this season. junior year for running back is, for most positions, or at least for a lot of them, if you're not a surefire first round pick, I think you should come back to college. If you're just, a true junior. For running backs, I feel the exact opposite. I feel like if you have started at least a full season, which he would have, if he had kept on this season, and you show well enough to get drafted, I would go, because shelf life is just it's not long for a running back. If you're a good enough player, you're gonna get picked, like where you're supposed to, but with the injury now, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with Moss and his family, and wish him a full and speedy recovery. Didn't get the specific of what the injury was. I have no idea what it is. I feel like if it was ACL, they would have told us, but they didn't. So it's leg, obviously, but we don't know what it is. So and Jeb pointed this out in the comments. Like, obviously, losing Ruben, before the season even started. We talked about that on here. It made me nervous to go into a season in this conference with just 3 scholarship running backs. And now you got 2, and your best one is out. Your best 2 are now out for the rest of the season. Now, obviously, Amari has played awesome this season. He has really, really stepped it up and had by far his best season in an A&M uniform. But the drop-off from 8 to 5 and from 5 to 22 and whoever's after him is a bigger gap. I thought Moss and Daniels made a very, very dynamic duo at running back, and carried this team through a lot of, rough spots on offense. They don't win the game against Arkansas without Le'Veon Moss. We ran for 300 yards against Florida and won that game. We, had to lean on Moss to close out the Bowling Green game. So yeah, he was having a great year. I know a lot of you guys know this, but he has 2 sons back in his home state of Louisiana, and I think I don't want to speak for him, but I think it was probably expected that he would, play well this season, which he was, and then go to the NFL draft and make a bunch of money and support his family, and I hope he can still do that. If the injury sets back his, if he's not able to do any pre-draft workouts or things like that, and obviously now there's NIL involved, and A&M can has a chance to take care of him, and I don't know the inner workings of those negotiations, but that's a very good place where NIL can help you, and to keep a guy like that around, get him healthy, get Ruben healthy, and then you enter next year with one of the best running back tandems in the country with Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens. So, and Amari could come back if he wanted to. I'm pretty sure he's a redshirt junior. So, EJ, I believe, is out of eligibility. So, you could have your top 3 guys all come back next year. I hate talking about next year because I feel like a lot of people are already doing that and trying to, which on one level, I'm with you. I'm very optimistic about the future of this program, and if you can get a couple of really, really badass receivers, where this thing could be this time next year. But I've got all off season to talk about that. I've got a few weeks to talk about the 2024 Aggies. So I'll spend my time as much as I can talking about this current team. But I'm going to take a quick break. I've got a little sound clip from Elko's presser today. This worked last week. Hopefully it'll work for me today. But here's Mike Elko opening up today in the press conference.
Thanks for coming out. Not really too many ways to sugarcoat it. We played a really bad game. We coached a really bad game. We played a really bad game. And that's just something we're going to have to own. Defensively, it starts with me. We had a poor plan. We had poor answers. Run defense wasn't what it needed to be. There was too many missed assignments, too many perimeter edge issues with getting our perimeter fits the right way. And then in the past game, I thought we had too many busts in the fourth quarter. Offensively, starts with me. We had a poor plan. We didn't do the things that we needed to do to be successful. We were awful in short yardage. And then I thought we had too many negative plays, whether it was, botched handoffs, botched exchanges, things that hadn't really been part of our plan at all that showed up, that just set some drives back. And we didn't do the things that we needed to do. And so it's where we're at, and now we got to move forward, and that's all you can do. And so you address it, you own it, and then you realize that everything that you ever wanted in this season is still right in front of you. And so you got to take advantage of the bye week. You got to go out and you got to get better, and you got to put yourself in position to play good football 3 straight Saturdays, starting with New Mexico State. And if we can do that, everything we want is still right in front of us. And so that's where we're at as a program, and I think that's where our kids are. And I'm pretty confident in how we'll respond and how we'll bounce back down the stretch. And so
That was the best one I've done yet. It actually worked exactly how I wanted it to. So great job, Will. So yeah, that was Elko. I'm obviously taking full responsibility for the outcome and the performance on Saturday. And yeah, I mean, there's something he touched on there that I wrote down and I wanted to bring up, but the youth and inexperience of Reed showed at times. Obviously, he talked about the botched handoffs and things like that turn into negative plays, and not even turnovers, but that's if you got 2nd and 6, you botch a handoff and you fall on it. Well, now it's 3rd and 10, and we could have been, could have gotten the first down, could have been 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and had a easier play call. Now we're backed up because we messed up the exchange, and it happened a couple times. And that's just youth. I remember there was a point in that game where I'm watching, and we're on offense, and that Carolina crowd is just going berserk, and the towels are waving, they're jumping up and down, they're going nuts, and I'm like, man, this is this kid's 6th game he's ever played in, or 7th, and I know we want our guys to just be superstars right away. I think I saw a comment today. I couldn't agree more. I think Johnny Manziel ruined us as a fan base, as playing the way he did as a redshirt freshman. And people forget he broke out against SMU. The first half of SMU, people were melting down. This offense sucks. Manziel sucks. We hired a stupid coach and stupid offense. We suck on offense. We can't do anything. And then that quarterback wins the Heisman, and the rest is history. But and not that I think that was that's a very rare thing to happen. And I'm telling you, man, you watch this game, and there's obvious misses. Reed was not a perfect player in this game by any stretch, but some of the throws he made, you see it, you see what you could have down the road with him. But I'm watching this game, and I'm like, man, it's 3rd and long, and they're wilding out, and I'm like, man, this is a growth moment for this young quarterback to, be thrust into, he probably wasn't planning back in August, hey, this is gonna be my team this year. He's like, oh, we got Connor, obviously he was battling for it, but everyone assumed it's gonna be Connor as a starter, and then we get into it, and he's like, oh, well, he had to come off and start 3 SEC games for us, or I guess 2 in Bowling Green. We went all 3 with him at the helm, and then he gives it up back to the starter, and then is inserted. We needed him in the worst way against LSU, and he shows up and plays incredible football, and then and yeah, now he's on the road without the Kyle Field crowd backing him, and that's tough. You look at a team like Ole Miss, who I've wanted to write off the last few weeks, but now I can't. Unfortunately, I think they're pretty good. I'm kind of glad that we don't play them, because I think they're pretty stout. Very curious to see if they're able to get back into the playoff discussion. Obviously, big game this weekend against Georgia, but Jackson Dart has started like an incredible amount of games. Dylan Gabriel at Oregon has like 50 plus career starts. You know, he played in I want to say he played in 2019. I may be wrong on that, but he's been around for a long time. You know, like most of the good quarterbacks you see around the country, they've they've got a ton of starts. You know, a ton of experience. Hell, you look at Tennessee with Nico, who was the $8 million man with the NIL contract, 5-star number 2 prospect in the country, only behind Arch Manning, and he has struggled badly this year. And like they've got some decent receivers, like some good receivers. They have a decent offensive line, and he just is struggling to figure it out. And you know, I know it's tough right now to watch what we have on offense. And we talked last week, like, hey, we somehow lead the SEC in scoring per game, but we don't know what our offense really is. Especially now with Moss out, who is a top 5 player on this football team. It's I didn't think what we were doing was sustainable. Now we kind of know it's not, and we have to figure something out and have something click in the passing game to be able to beat a team like Texas, beat Auburn, find your way into the SEC title game and play for a playoff spot and all those good things. And I just want to put in perspective that this is the first year of a head coaching staff or of a coaching staff. I think for the most part, what these coordinators have done and what Elko has done has been pretty dang solid. Because the personnel on offense is not special. Like obviously with Moss, you could make some hay with Moss and Daniels and Reed, doing his thing at quarterback, but we just don't have the level of receivers that we need long term. I think that's a position you see get attacked in the transfer portal, especially with some guys running out of eligibility and things like that. And now you've got some ammo. Be like, hey, we have some guys on the O line coming back. We got some good backs. A couple young tight ends coming up through the ranks, and all we're missing is the true number 1 guy that in contention for all conference honors, true stud receiver. That's what we're missing, and I think to not have that and to have be without first of all in a run first offense, to not have your top 2 running backs and your best offensive lineman in Chase Basantis, your left guard, and now you've made quarterback changes a few different times, and now you are riding with a redshirt freshman who's played in 6 or 7 games. That's tough. That's tough to overcome, and we have we have won some games this season that have been really, really impressive, and I think let me back up. Our team's not thinking this way. Our team is thinking, hey, which they should be. We still have everything in front of us. We can win these next 3 games after the bye week, and get in the playoff, and then like after that, like all bets are off. For me, some people want to fire the coaching staff. They think Elko is terrible, and we're going to be doomed for the next 3-4 seasons. My opinion is that the win against LSU, amongst the other 6 wins on the season, if you get to 9-3, which is a big if, you could go 10-2. That's very possible. They built up enough cachet. Like you're already seeing it in recruiting for 26, even in this current class in 25. They've got a top 6-7 class right now. They're in on like 3 or 4 top 100 players, like borderline 5-star day 1 contributor type guys. and the national folks are really bullish on what they're doing on the recruiting trail. They, as of today, they had a tight end commit today. 2 days after this horrific loss that everyone said was the worst thing in history and would do my program. They had a top 100 kid who's a tight end from Georgia commit for 2026. So they have the number one class in 2026. That means a hill of beans right now, especially when you have out of state kids. That could change in a heartbeat, but I think things are still trending very positively, and I'm happy about this season, and I'm thrilled about where they can go in the future. But I just said I wasn't going to do that. Let's get back to talking about this team. So, anything in my notes that I missed? I missed my soundbite earlier. Hang on, or my new where's it at? Okay, after Arkansas, what did I say this was going to be the rest of the season? A roller coaster, right? Well, here we go. Roller coaster. What it was then, it is now. It is up and down, and the what better example of that than you know your biggest best home win in 2 decades maybe, and then whatever the hell that was on Saturday, that's a week apart. Um, so yeah, I know it's it's tough to not get emotional about this because I mean we love this stuff. I love this stuff. Or I wouldn't be sitting here on a Monday night talking about it for an hour. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't go back and try to rewatch that abomination of a game and try and tell you guys what the hell happened. And when you love something like that and you have a bad performance like that, it's upsetting. And trust me, your boy here was not happy on Saturday night, but it's helpful, after a game like that to refocus things a bit, put things in perspective of, hey, this is a really, really damn good team and coaching staff, and on the whole, things are heading in the right direction as we sit here today. Anything else I missed in terms of the game? Reed was pressured on 50% of his dropbacks. This is bad. We covered that. One thing that my brother pointed out, and I'm glad he said this because it's something that I've noticed since Elko has been the coach here. Over the summer, I was trying to go back and watch games at Duke the last 2 years when Elko was the head coach, and obviously to get a feel for what they were trying to do as a team, but also just to kind of see what he was like on the sidelines as a head coach, and what he was then and what he has been here are two very different things. And I think it's a positive thing. But at Duke, he was very reserved and obviously very engaged in the game, and would give it to the refs when they needed it, and things like that. But when my brother texted me, he was like, Elko's face is so red, and he is just screaming at the at what's going on, and to me, I think that's a significant difference because, and not that he didn't care when he was coaching Duke. Obviously, he cared a ton, and they had a lot of success. But I think his level of, I think he knows the pressure. I think he welcomes that. But to me, that shows that it's as important to him as it is to us. He is more upset than we are. It took me a minute to fall asleep. I bet you Mike Elko didn't sleep after that game. And I'll take that over some of the things we've had here in the past. And not I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but there's a coach. I'm assuming he's the head coach at ULM, with just a pathetic display of leadership, just absolutely crossing the line, and coaches are going to yell. That's what coaches do. They're going to yell, they're going to cuss. That's fine. But what that guy did was over the line to get and stay in a player's face like that and to make physical contact with him. Someone said he was seconds away from pulling a Woody Hayes. Sure looked like it. Yeah, it sure looked like it. And Elko's not that. Like it's. I love the the energy and the passion and the give a damn, but obviously don't take it too far. But that's just a little rant that I wanted to get off of here. Let's see here. Retired in VA, one of our best listeners here on the ineligibles. At the start of the season, I would have been thrilled with 9-3. Yeah, it was soul crushing, but we are so much improved. Aggies, leave the hysterics to the entitled twits at BON. That would be Burn Orange Nation, the Texas SB Nation site. So like we still have a very, very big important game that this team could definitely win and flip the mood of this thing like on a dime. So let's not freak out and call for people's heads and act ridiculous, because like he said, that's for fans of other teams, and that's not us. So now when it's warranted, like, hey, we sat here last year and said, hey, whatever we're doing right now under that coaching staff, a season ago, that wasn't going to get it done. And I think we acknowledged that on this show, and I think we all kind of knew it. And this is one bad game, and it was bad. It was very bad. But let's not let that undo everything good that we've seen so far. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to just call it like I see it, call balls and strikes, and keep us from getting, I'm trying to get us off the roller coaster. Like, let's try to be as like, man, I guess LSU, like, I was, obviously very emotional, and had we lost, it would have been very emotional. But the next day, it's a game. It's college football. It's not life or death. And I think we could use a little chill pill every now and then. Don't have much else, but yeah. So, like, to me, So in terms of where we could end up, the rest of the season, obviously 15th in the AP poll, the first rankings, official rankings of the college football playoff, committee will come out tomorrow night, which there's nothing else going on tomorrow night, so everyone should have plenty of free time to just sit back and, and watch that be unveiled. I'm kind of curious. It doesn't really matter where they put us. It'll probably be 15, maybe a little higher, but it's all very pointless. So this past weekend, I think I may have brought this up on here, but there's a really cool tool that someone built. If you type in the letter M red SEC tiebreaker, it should pull up this website this person made, where you can change the outcome of all the games that are remaining and see like what the standings would be. And I on Saturday morning, I was just like doing every different thing, trying to break it. And I had one to where it got down to like the last or the second to last like option for tiebreakers, where you had to like look at the capped scoring margins. But like that was very like out there as a possibility. But now, so I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, so we need like the whole time I'm doing this, I'm baking in a loss to Texas. To put us at 7-1 at the time. Okay, we're 7-1. They're 7-1. Georgia LSU could be 7-1. Here's what could possibly happen. Well, now us losing has made your rooting interest a lot easier. So obviously beat Texas, priority number one. But aside from that, this weekend, I'm rooting heavily for Alabama to beat LSU. and hand them a second loss. I don't know if it would really matter when it came down to it. Well, actually, it might. It might put us out if it did come down to it. But better safe than sorry. And LSU is riding way too high on social media, so would like to see them get knocked down a peg and get their third loss and take them out of the playoff race completely. So then you look up at the end of the season, and Georgia has got some issues. If y'all watch the Florida game, Georgia could lose this weekend to Ole Miss and really turn this thing on its head. Georgia still plays Tennessee, who they have a better chance against them than Ole Miss does, or than Ole Miss maybe. So yeah, but basically what I'm picturing is, if Georgia wins out, they're 7-1 in conference. We went out. We're the only other team 7-1 in conference. We would play them in the SEC title game. Obviously, if you lose to Texas, you're out of the playoff. You're out of conference title contention. But and trust me, that would suck so bad to lose to that team and that fan base and have to endure an off season of those people. So, like, honestly, this is kind of bringing me back to what is great about college football, and it's not even about, like, yeah, I would love to go to Atlanta for our first ever SEC title game appearance. That would be great. I want so much more to just beat the crap out of out of that team in Austin, and then I won't even care about what happens in any kind of playoff. But I digress. That would in that situation, it really comes down to, for A&M, it comes down to that game. That is a play-in game for us. TBD for them. They only have the one loss against Georgia. They play Florida at home this coming week, which apparently DJ Lagway could play in that one. Apparently that injury was not as bad. They picked off Carson Beck, 4 times? Could have won that game had Lagway played the whole game. So curious to see how maybe a re-energized Florida team takes on Texas, and then Texas still has to go up to Austin, or up to Arkansas, and take on the Hogs. Taylon Green, I didn't see if I don't think he came back in the game. I know he had a bad injury early on. Maybe he did come back, but I didn't finish watching that one, so I don't know his status. But what I'm afraid of is my good friend Robert Behrens has had this not really prediction, but just possible scenario all off season. He's brought this up, that the potential for us and Texas to go into that game, both 9-2. Winner goes to the playoff, loser goes home. The amount of stress and anxiety that would put on both fan bases would be like, it would make the entire Twitter website an uninhabitable wasteland if that were to happen. So in that case, I'm rooting for it. I'll go ahead and hop off. I don't think I'm gonna have any guests this week. And obviously still, whenever my son decides to get here, we'll take off and go to the hospital, and may not have a show for a minute. So, but yeah, so I'll try to get back here on Wednesday and maybe break down some stuff going on this weekend. It's nice. I mean, I would have loved to be sitting here in the top 10, chilling on a bye week, while the SEC just goes at each other's throats this weekend. But hey, it'll still be fun, and we can break it all down on Wednesday. But thanks so much for tagging along. It's not as bad as it seems, and it's still TBD. So let's see if Elko and this coaching staff and these players can get things back on track, and see how they do. But they're off this week. They'll be back next week against New Mexico State, and still so much to play for. But thanks for tagging along, and I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. Bye-bye.